All right, gather round, folks, because today we're diving headfirst into a tale of intergalactic tension, deadly planets, and one human who just refuses to play by the rules. We're talking about Captain Evan Carter, a name whispered with both respect and utter frustration across the Valerian Empire. You see the war between humans and the Valerians? Yeah, that ended years ago, but the awkward, uncomfortable silence between them? That's a whole other story. The Valerians, with their sleek silver-blue skin and rigid sense of order, called humans reckless, emotional, and totally unpredictable. And Evan? He was the living embodiment of everything they couldn't stand. This guy wasn't just a survivor, he was a problem. He'd once saved a Valerian colony during a massive solar storm, which, sounds heroic. But his methods? They broke every single alien rule in the book. He fought with pure instinct, not some predefined tactical flowchart. He spoke his mind, a big no-no in Valerian society. And worst of all, he had the audacity to question their leaders. Can you imagine? So the Valerian High Council, being the shrewd politicians they were, decided they needed to get rid of him. But subtly, of course. No messy political incidents. Their solution? Operation Crimson. They spun it as an honor, a mission of critical importance. But everyone knew it was an exile dressed up as duty. The target? Crimson Planet. A world that shimmered blood red under twin suns, and it had one very famous, very deadly resident, the Vorath Beast. A creature so powerful, so terrifying, that even the Valerian army stayed clear. Basically, it was a one-way ticket. No one who landed there ever came back alive. That morning, the hangar was absolutely silent. Evan walked towards his transport ship, his steps echoing on the metal floor. All around him, alien soldiers watched. Their silver-blue skin reflected the harsh lights, and, some of them even managed a cold, mocking smile. They didn't need to say it. Their eyes screamed, "You're going to die." Evan wasn't exactly equipped for a suicide mission either. Just a small survival pack, his plasma rifle, and a patched-up flight suit. He looked more like a drifter than a decorated soldier. But in his eyes, there was this spark, this calm confidence that none of the aliens could quite understand. At the ship's ramp stood Commander Zareth, Evan's old superior, a guy who'd always made his dislike for Evan clear. "Captain Carter," Zareth said, a sneer twisting his lips. "You will collect biological data on the Vorath species. Simple mission, in and out." Evan's lips curved slightly. "And if I don't come back?" Zareth just shrugged. "Then we'll know the beast is still hungry." A few aliens chuckled. Evan didn't flinch, he just gave a lazy salute. "I'll send it your regards." And with that, he stepped into the shuttle. The doors hissed shut, sealing his fate. As the engines roared to life, the craft lifted off, shooting into the vast black void of space. Through the window, Evan watched the Valerian capital shrink, becoming just a distant blue dot. He leaned back, staring at his reflection in the glass. "They think I'll die," he murmured to himself. "Let's disappoint them." The AI pilot hummed quietly. "Warning, Crimson Planet is rated uninhabitable. Atmospheric conditions, deadly. Life signs, unstable." Evan just grinned. Perfect vacation spot. Hours later, the ship plunged into Crimson Planet's orbit. Flames licked the hull as it tore through the red atmosphere. Below, endless deserts glowed like molten metal, and lightning danced across black clouds. The whole planet looked angry, alive, and utterly dangerous. When the shuttle touched down, the ground cracked beneath it. Evan, ever the professional, checked his suit and stepped out. The air was thick, hot, and smelled like rust. His boots sank slightly into the burning dust. "Feels like hell," he muttered. "Home sweet home." He started scanning the area, but his radar just flickered with static. Then something big moved on the horizon. Way too big. The readings jumped, then vanished. "Great," he said under his breath. "Either the system's broken, or something out there really doesn't want to be found." As night fell, the sky turned a deep, ominous red. Twin moons rose over the ridges, casting impossibly long shadows across the rocky ground. Evan set up a small camp beside the shuttle, the silence broken only by the whispering wind. He ate from a ration pack, the dry protein bars a grim reminder of old war days back on Earth. Suddenly his motion sensor beeped. Once, then again. Evan froze. He looked up at the hills. He felt it. A heavy, patient presence. Something was watching him. Slowly he aimed his rifle into the darkness. "Come on out," he whispered. A low growl echoed through the air, deep, powerful, unlike anything he'd ever heard. The ground trembled slightly. Dust rose. And then, two massive glowing blue eyes appeared from behind a boulder, unblinking. Evan's heart hammered, but he didn't move. "So, you're real," he said softly. The eyes blinked once, and then a shadow stepped into the moonlight. It was enormous. Muscles like armor plates, skin like dark metal, claws glinting under the twin moons. The Vorath Beast. Evan lowered his weapon just an inch. "You're beautiful," he whispered. The creature roared, a sound that shook the air and made the sand dance. But Evan didn't run. He just stood there, staring back, unafraid. Somewhere deep inside, he knew this wasn't just a battle for survival. It was the beginning of something much, much bigger. The aliens had sent him here to die. But fate? Fate had sent him to meet a legend. And the night was only just beginning. Imagine this. Evan Carter, a lone astronaut, crash lands on the infamous Crimson Planet. His first night? Pure terror. Every whisper of wind, every distant rumble, sounded like it carried a threat. He'd seen it. A massive creature with glowing blue eyes, disappearing into a storm. It felt like a phantom, leaving only a tremor in the ground and an unshakable feeling that it was watching. Curiosity, or maybe something more primal, kept him awake all night. As the searing red sun clawed its way above the horizon, painting the desert in hues of fire and dust, Evan packed his gear. He started walking east, not just to survive, but to understand. And what did he find? Giant, three-clawed footprints, each the size of his arm, leading into the unknown. "Guess you're not shy about leaving footprints," he muttered, a dry joke to himself as his suit's alarm screamed about the impossible heat. But Evan was forged in a different kind of fire. Years of war had taught him to thrive where others would crumble. He finally reached a colossal canyon, a gaping wound in the planet's surface. The air here was cooler, but the shadows were thick and ancient. As he carefully descended, his boots scraping against rock, he saw them, symbols covering the canyon walls, spirals, circles, images of smaller creatures bowing to something immense. It wasn't random. It was a language, a history. He traced one with his gloved hand. "So your people worship the beast," he whispered. "But you didn't understand it." Just then, a searing gust of hot air swept past him, followed by a growl. Low, deep, too close. Evan froze. He slowly turned his head, and there it was. Two glowing blue eyes, watching him from behind a pillar of red stone. This time, there was no fear in those eyes, only a profound awareness. The creature stepped forward, its heavy claws cracking the ground. It was colossal, taller than any vehicle, its hide like dark steel, scarred with battles untold. Its breath steamed in the air, hot and heavy. Evan raised his rifle, but not to shoot. He spoke, calmly, as if to an animal back on Earth. "You're not my enemy," he said. "I just want to understand this place." The beast tilted its head, listening. Then in one powerful, earth-shaking leap, it landed mere meters away. The ground convulsed. Dust swirled. Evan's visor cracked, but he didn't move. He just stared into those eyes. The creature lowered its head, sniffing the air near him, its hot breath fogging his helmet. Then it let out a long, slow exhale, a sound almost like a sigh, and stepped back. Evan blinked. "You're not attacking," he whispered. "Why?" A short, uncertain growl rumbled in its chest. Then, it turned and began walking deeper into the canyon. Without a second thought, Evan followed. Hours blurred into twilight. The red sky faded to purple as Evan trailed the beast through winding tunnels and glowing caves filled with shimmering crystals. The walls pulsed with a faint blue light, and the air carried the impossible scent of rain, a scent the planet hadn't known for centuries. In one cavern, Evan found something heartbreaking: ancient bones. Dozens of them, some from smaller creatures, but many from the beast's own kind. He crouched beside them. "You're the last one," he said softly, a profound realization hitting him. The mighty Vorath Beast wasn't a monster, it was alone. When he looked up, the creature was watching him, not with anger, but with a deep rumble, almost like mourning. Evan slowly set down his weapon and sat on a nearby rock. "Yeah," he whispered. "I lost people too." The beast tilted its head, then to Evan's absolute surprise, it lowered itself to the ground, resting, its eyes half closed, its tail curling around the ancient bones of its family. It was trust. A fragile, wordless trust. For the first time on this alien world, Evan felt safe. He pulled a protein ration from his pack and tossed it. The beast sniffed it, then swallowed it whole. "Guess you're not a vegetarian," Evan chuckled, a genuine smile touching his lips for the first time since landing. The night deepened. The cave glowed, bathing the beast's armor-like skin in blue. Evan leaned back against the rock, gazing at the colossal creature. He thought of the aliens who sent him here, expecting his demise, their cold laughter, and the bitter irony. How this so-called monster had shown him more mercy than any of them. He whispered, "They'll never believe this." The beast's tail flicked once, as if understanding. Then it slowly closed its eyes. Evan smiled faintly, whispering one last thing before sleep claimed him. "We're not enemies, we're survivors." Outside, lightning tore across the crimson sky and the planet growled with distant storms. But inside that ancient cave, for the first time in centuries, the Vorath Beast and a human shared a silent, profound peace. And as the wind howled through the canyons, it felt like the planet itself was watching, waiting for what would come next. We're talking about Crimson Planet, and trust me, you've never heard anything quite like this. Imagine waking up on a planet where the wind howls like angry spirits and the sun blazes like molten glass. That's exactly where we find Evan. Not exactly a peaceful morning, right? But inside a glowing cave, things were surprisingly calm. He blinked awake, adjusting to the faint blue light, and there it was, the Vorath Beast. Lying just a few meters away, chest rising and falling, a sleeping guardian whose scales shimmered like metal under the crystal glow. For a second, Evan forgot everything else. He just stared, whispering, "You're incredible." Suddenly, a twitch of an ear. It wasn't asleep. One glowing eye opened, fixing on him. Evan froze, hands slowly raising. "Easy there. I'm not your enemy." The beast huffed a warm gust of air, then surprisingly lowered its head again. Evan couldn't help but smile. "You really are full of surprises." He stretched, noting the drop in temperature. Outside, thunder cracked, followed by strange, echoing roars. "Doesn't sound like you," he murmured to the beast. "Guess you're not the only thing alive out there." The beast rumbled, a sound that felt almost like a warning. A few hours later, Evan was exploring the canyon's upper ridge, and guess who was right there with him? The beast, following him like a protective shadow. It was almost like it was making sure he didn't wander into danger. The higher he climbed, the more the air shimmered, revealing an endless vista of red dunes, black mountains, and dust clouds glowing under twin suns. Beautiful, yes, but dangerously so. Then, his suit's sensor beeped. Movement. Multiple life signs. Evan crouched, zooming in with his visor. Not more beasts, but something smaller, thinner, faster. Predators, crimson scarls, scavengers that hunted in packs. Their skin looked like burning lava, their claws sharp as blades. Evan's heart hammered. He knew these things. The Valerians had shown recordings, soldiers torn apart in seconds. He reached for his rifle, but it was too late. The Scarls turned, their glowing eyes locking on him. They hissed, a sharp metallic sound, and charged, Damn it, Evan muttered, firing 3 plasma shots. 2 fell, but more kept coming. He stepped back, firing again, but there were simply too many. His rifle overheated, blinking red. The Skarls leapt from all directions. Evan swung his rifle like a bat, knocking one aside, but another slammed into him. He hit the ground hard, gasping as claws raked his arm. And then, the ground shook. A roar tore through the canyon, louder than thunder, deep enough to make Evan's chest vibrate. The Skarls froze mid-charge. A massive shadow covered them all. The Vorath Beast landed between Evan and the pack, claws crushing stone, eyes burning with blue fire. The Skarls hissed, circling cautiously. One dared to jump, and the Vorath swatted it aside like it was nothing. The rest attacked together, but the beast moved like lightning, snapping, slamming, tearing through them with terrifying grace. Evan watched, half in awe, half in disbelief. This creature fought like a storm given shape. In seconds, the ground was silent, the Skarls scattered or dead. The Vorath turned, growling low. Evan stayed on the ground, breathing hard. "Yeah, thanks," he said, coughing slightly. "I owe you one." The beast tilted its head, that same curious motion it had shown before. It stepped closer and sniffed his wounded arm. Evan flinched, then relaxed as the beast gently touched the wound with its snout. From its skin, faint blue energy flowed, like sparks. Warmth spread through the cut, and to his shock, the bleeding stopped. The wound began to close. He stared. "You can heal?" The beast blinked slowly, as if answering yes. Evan exhaled in disbelief. "Unbelievable. You're not just strong, you're something else entirely." That evening, Evan built another small fire at the canyon's edge. The beast rested nearby, its massive tail curled. The red sun sank low, painting the land in deep crimson. Evan looked at the creature. "They sent me here to die," he said quietly. "But instead, I found you." The beast's eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the firelight. It let out a soft rumble, almost like a purr. Evan chuckled. "You understand more than they ever did?" He gazed at the darkening sky as stars began to appear. "Maybe," he whispered. "We're not so different, you and I. Both alone. Both forgotten." The beast made a low, gentle sound. Evan smiled. "Yeah, partners then?" He reached out a gloved hand. Slowly, carefully, the beast lowered its head, letting his hand rest against its metal-like skin. Warmth pulsed beneath. For a brief second, it almost felt alive, breathing, connected, and somewhere far above, satellites from the Valerian outpost picked up an impossible signal, a human's life beacon. The Council would soon learn that the man they sent to die had not only survived, he had found the planet's deadliest creature and made it his ally. What an incredible journey. Who would have thought that a planet meant for doom could forge such an unlikely, powerful bond? It just goes to show you, sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected places. Imagine this: Evan, stranded on the desolate Crimson Planet, a place where the wind doesn't just whistle, it screams. One day, the skies turned violent. Clouds, once dull red, twisted into menacing violet and black. Lightning tore across them like jagged scars. His scanner blared a terrifying warning. "Atmospheric alert. Acid storm approaching. Seek shelter immediately." Now Evan wasn't alone. Standing rigid on a ridge was a creature they called a Vorath. Its nostrils flared, sensing the danger in the air. "Yeah, I feel it too," Evan muttered, understanding blooming between them. "We better move." The acid rain began, glowing sparks that hissed as they struck the ground. Evan's suit sizzled. He knew he was in trouble. But then the Vorath moved, faster than he thought possible. It nudged him gently but firmly towards a canyon. He didn't resist. He trusted this beast. As the sky cracked open, they ran. Lightning lit their path in flashes of purple fire. The acid rain melted stones and turned sand into smoking rivers. Every step burned, but Evan stayed close to the creature's massive legs, shielded by its armored hide. They found refuge in a narrow cave. The Vorath pushed Evan inside first, then squeezed halfway in, its broad back blocking the entrance from the raging storm. Evan slumped, panting. "You saved me again," he whispered. A low rumble of pain came from the beast. Its thick skin had protected him, but it bore its own wounds, smoking with blue liquid. "Hey," Evan crawled closer, pulling out a medkit. "Stay still. I can help." He applied neutralizing gel to the burns, and the steam slowly faded. "That's it," he soothed. "You'll be okay." The creature's eyes, full of trust, watched his every move. Hours passed. The storm howled, but inside their makeshift sanctuary there was only silence, the steady rhythm of two survivors breathing as one. Evan took off his cracked helmet, feeling the warm air. "Funny," he mused softly. "They sent me here to die, and now you're the reason I'm alive." The Vorath blinked as if it understood every word. He gazed at the creature. "You need a name," he decided. "Vorath is what they called your kind, but you're more than that. How about Kara? It means strong one in the old Earth language." Kara purred, a soft, rumbling sound of approval. "All right, Kara, it is." As the storm finally faded, a strange peace settled. Outside, the acid rain had carved new rivers, but the air felt cleaner, reborn. Evan and Kara emerged, surveying the transformed landscape. "This planet tried to kill us," Evan said, a new resolve in his voice. "But maybe it's testing us instead." Kara rumbled, her eyes fixed on the horizon. In that moment, Evan felt a profound connection, a shared fire with this incredible creature. He placed a hand on her side. "We're a team now," he affirmed, "and whatever's next, we face it together." Kara lowered her head, silent but sure. High above, a Valerian satellite tracked Evan's life signal stronger than ever. The data officer gasped in disbelief. The human's still alive, and something is with him. But for Evan and Kara, those distant eyes didn't matter. They had found something far greater than mere survival. They had found trust. And on Crimson Planet, that was the rarest treasure of all. Imagine a tiny, flickering signal, barely a whisper in the vast, cold blackness of space. It's broken, full of static, but it's unmistakably human. Deep inside the gleaming Valerian command center, a young technician frantically leans into her screen. Her voice trembles as she calls out, "Commander Zareth, you need to see this." Zareth, clearly annoyed, just sighs, "What now?" But the technician turns her monitor, her eyes wide. "It's Captain Evan Carter's signal. His life beacon. It's active again." Commander Zareth lets out a cold, disbelieving laugh. "Impossible. The Crimson Planet kills everything. The storm season just ended. No human could survive that." But the technician is insistent, her voice barely a whisper. The signal is growing stronger. It's moving toward orbit. A stunned silence falls over the control room. Officers exchange uneasy glances. Could he really be alive? Zareth's smile vanishes. "Track it," he barks. "If it's real, I want to see it myself." Meanwhile, down on the brutal surface of Crimson Planet, Captain Evan Carter stands at the mouth of a massive canyon gazing up at the alien sky. The devastating storms had finally ended days ago, leaving behind a clearer yet still hostile landscape under twin burning suns. His makeshift camp, a few scavenged metal sheets offering meager shade, has become his only home. Beside him, always, is Kara, the terrifying Vorath Beast. With incredible ingenuity and sheer human grit, Evan had repaired his crashed shuttle's transmitter, jury-rigging it with salvaged alien tech, and now for the first time a tiny green light blinks on the panel. The signal is working. Evan smiles faintly, a flicker of hope in his tired eyes. "You see that, Kara? They'll hear us now." The massive beast responds with a soft, rumbling purr, its tail coiling around the rocks like a protective dragon. Evan adjusts the frequency, his voice crackling through the rudimentary system. "This is Captain Evan Carter of the Valerian expedition. Mission Operation Crimson. Status update. I'm not dead. Repeat, I'm not dead. Static hisses through the air, but somewhere far above, his message begins its impossible journey, crossing storms, piercing red clouds, and finally, reaching space. Back in the Valerian command hall, the speakers suddenly crackle to life. I'm not dead. Every alien officer freezes. Gasps echo through the room. The technician's hands are shaking. It's him, she whispers, tears in her eyes. It's really him. Commander Zareth stares at the soundboard, his face pale with a mix of awe and terror. He's speechless for a second, then snaps, "Open a channel." But before they can react, the signal cuts out. The transmission stops. Zareth slams his hand on the console. "Find his location." Another officer quickly responds, "Already tracing it, sir. It's from Sector 9, deep inside Crimson territory. But there's another reading beside him. Large, massive energy output. It's not human." Zareth snaps, "What is it then?" The officer swallows hard. It's moving with him. On the planet, Evan quickly packs his gear. He can feel it. Something has changed. "They heard me," he tells Kara. "They'll come, and when they do, they won't expect you." Kara tilts its massive head, its intelligent blue eyes watching him carefully. Evan offers a comforting smile. "Don't worry, I won't let them hurt you." He climbs into the half-repaired shuttle, powering up the thrusters. The ship shudders violently, coughing smoke, but then, miraculously, the engines roar to life. "Let's go home," he whispers. The ground cracks beneath the ship as it slowly ascends into the blood-red sky. Kara steps back, letting the heat wash over its metallic scales. The beast's blue eyes glow brighter, not from fear, but from a profound understanding. As the shuttle lifts higher, Kara crouches, muscles tensing. Then, with a mighty leap, it follows. Incredible wings of plasma unfold from its back, a natural energy shield that shimmers under the red light. The creature soars upward, effortlessly keeping pace with the ship as they break through the clouds together. Hours later, the Valerian base alarm blares furiously. "Unidentified craft entering orbit," shouts the technician. "Wait, it's the human shuttle." Commander Zareth stands frozen. "Bring it on screen." The holographic display flickers to life, and there it is. A small, battered human shuttle, its engines glowing weakly. But right behind it, a shape so massive it fills the sky. Every alien in the room stares, speechless. The Vorath Beast, alive, flying through space, its plasma wings shimmering like energy storms. "It can fly?" one whispers in disbelief. "It's impossible," another mutters. Zareth's voice cracks. He tamed it?" The technician shakes her head, utterly bewildered. "No, sir. Look, it's not chained. It's following him." When Evan's shuttle finally lands in the docking bay, the silence is deafening. Hundreds of alien soldiers stand ready, weapons raised, unsure whether to aim or to bow. The shuttle doors hiss open, and out steps Evan, covered in dust, calm, his eyes cold with quiet pride. Behind him, the ground shakes as Kara lands with a thunderous impact. The alien soldiers stumble backward, terrified. The beast's breath glows blue, its massive eyes scanning the crowd. But when Evan simply raises his hand, Kara stops, motionless, obedient, majestic. The Valerian commanders can't believe what they're seeing. Evan looks straight at Zareth, his voice clear and sharp. "You sent me to die." Zareth swallows hard, his usual arrogance gone. "And yet, you live." Evan's voice is calm but cuts through the silence. "I lived because I learned something you never understood. Monsters aren't born. They're made by fear." He turns toward Kara, then back to the stunned crowd. "And this one's no monster. She's proof that life doesn't need permission to exist." For a long, breathtaking moment, no one speaks. Then, one alien soldier slowly drops his weapon and bows slightly. Another follows, then another. Soon, the entire hangar is filled with hushed whispers. The human survived. He returned with the beast. He made it his ally. From that day forward, the name Evan Carter became more than just a rumor. It became, now imagine one human exiled to die, returning with the galaxy's most feared creature as his best friend. Sounds like a movie, right? Well, buckle up, because this is the legend of Evan Carter, the Valerian capital, and a creature named Kara. The Valerian capital had never known such silence. Every screen, every soldier, every council member was frozen in disbelief. Captain Evan Carter, the human they'd sent to a certain death, was back. And he wasn't alone. Word of his return spread like wildfire, igniting fear and awe in equal measure. In the main landing bay, hundreds of Valerians, their silver-blue faces pale, watched as massive energy shields locked down. Their weapons, ready to fire, were pointed at a magnificent, terrifying creature known as a Vorath Beast. But this wasn't just any Vorath. This was Kara, and she stood calm, her glowing blue eyes surveying the armed crowd, utterly unbothered. Evan Carter stood tall in front of her, his uniform torn but his stance radiating strength. Commander Zareth, trembling between fear and pride, stammered, "Captain Carter, what is this thing doing here?" Evan just smiled faintly. "This thing, Commander," he replied, "saved my life." The hall erupted in murmurs. "He's lying," one alien whispered. "The Vorath can't be tamed," hissed another. Evan ignored them. "You sent me to die," he stated, his voice clear. "But she didn't kill me, she protected me. We survived together." Zareth's eyes narrowed. "You expect us to believe you befriended a Vorath?" "I don't care what you believe," Evan said quietly. "But she's not your enemy. She never was." Suddenly Kara lifted her head. A deep, powerful rumble resonated from her chest, vibrating through the floor. It wasn't aggressive, but it sent shivers down spines. Soldiers recoiled. "Hold your fire," Zareth yelled. Evan turned to Kara, placing a hand on her metal-like skin. "Easy," he whispered. "They're just scared." The magnificent beast lowered her head, her bright blue eyes dimming to a calm silver, obeying his voice instantly. Gasps filled the hangar. Never had Valerians witnessed such control over a Vorath. "She listens to him," a council member breathed. "No," corrected another. "She trusts him." The High Council wasted no time calling an emergency meeting. In the glowing white chamber, Evan stood alone, while Kara waited outside, her shadow stretching across the courtyard like a sleeping mountain. The 7 silver-robed council members stared down. Councillor Theris, the eldest, leaned forward. "Human, do you know what you have done? The Vorath are not allies. They are the destroyers of worlds." Evan remained calm. "Maybe you were wrong about them, just like you were wrong about us." "Explain yourself," Theris demanded. Evan took a deep breath. "You call us reckless, emotional, dangerous. But that emotion, that fire, it's what kept me alive. It's what made her trust me. You fear what you don't understand. You locked away a creature that only needed compassion." The council shifted uneasily. Theris frowned. "You speak of compassion, but the Vorath burned entire colonies." Evan met his gaze. "Because you attacked them first." The silence was heavy. Evan continued, his voice steady. "I studied the markings in the caves. They weren't war symbols. They were warning signs. You wiped out their kind and called them monsters. Kara is the last of her species." A faint gasp echoed. "She saved me," Evan went on. "She shared her shelter, her food, even her strength. She could have ended me 100 times, but she didn't. Tell me, what's more civilized, killing what you fear or understanding it?" Outside, Kara shifted, her eyes fixed on the doors separating her from Evan. Inside, the council whispered. Finally, Theris raised a hand. "Bring in the creature." The doors opened slowly, the ground trembling as Kara entered, her glowing eyes illuminating the room. Some counselors stood in alarm, but Evan stepped beside her, calm as ever. "Kara," he said softly, "they need to see." The beast lowered her head, towering but gentle as Evan placed his palm on her snout. She understands me, and I understand her. You wanted proof humanity was dangerous. Instead, you got proof we can connect with anything, even what you call impossible. Theris rose, his voice quiet. And what do you suggest, human Carter? Evan looked around the room. You call her a monster. I call her a miracle. Don't destroy what you fear. Learn from it. Let this be the start of something new. The chamber fell silent. The Valerians, known for their cold logic, had no answer. For the first time in centuries, they witnessed something beyond reason. Trust born between two different worlds. That evening, the story of Evan and Kara spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Newsfeeds called it the human who returned with a monster as a friend, or the beast whisperer of Crimson Planet. But for Evan, it wasn't about fame. Standing on the balcony, stars reflecting in his eyes, he gently touched Kara's head. They'll never forget this, he said softly. Not the fear, not the awe. Kara made a low, almost happy sound. Yeah, Evan chuckled. Priceless faces indeed. They'll study you, maybe even worship you. But they'll never understand how simple it was. You just needed someone who didn't shoot first. The beast leaned gently against him, careful not to crush him. And under the red night sky, the human and the last of the Vorath sat together in silence. Not as man and monster, but as two survivors who had rewritten the meaning of strength. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. You might think you know courage, but what if courage looked like a human, alone on the deadliest planet in the known universe, befriending the very creature sent to destroy him? Buckle up, because we're talking about Evan Carter, the man who walked with beasts. Years ago, Evan Carter's name was whispered not in awe, but in scandal. He was the human who defied orders, who survived the Crimson Planet, a place no one was supposed to return from alive. And he didn't just survive. He came back with Kara, a magnificent Vorath Beast by his side. What started as an impossibility became a legend. Children whispered his name, soldiers gave him quiet respect, and even the ancient Valerian scholars called him the bridge between worlds. But Evan, he wasn't in it for the fame. He lived simply, on the edge of the Valerian capital, his small research outpost a haven for him and Kara. Every evening you'd find him there cleaning his old plasma rifle, no longer needed, while Kara watched the twin moons rise. Peaceful, isn't it? He'd say to the massive beast, who would hum softly in reply, a sound like the planet's heartbeat. They understood each other without words, a bond forged in fire and defiance. But peace, as we all know, is rarely a permanent guest. One morning the calm shattered. A fleet of silver ships descended on his outpost and out stepped Commander Zareth, his face grim. Captain Carter, Zareth announced. The Council requests your presence. There's been movement near the Crimson Sector. Large energy readings, Vorath signatures. Evan's eyes narrowed. More of her kind? He asked, glancing at Kara, who had raised her massive head, eyes glowing softly. Zareth nodded. Possibly. They want you to lead the investigation. Evan looked at Kara, a knowing smile playing on his lips. Looks like your story isn't over yet, he whispered to her. Soon Evan's shuttle was once again cutting through the familiar red clouds of the Crimson Planet. The air shimmered with heat, just like before, but this time, fear wasn't his companion. This time, he was returning as the one who had conquered it. And right beside the shuttle, Kara soared, her massive wings spread wide, a moving storm of light that left the Valerian pilots in awe. She flies like a god, one muttered. No, another corrected softly. She flies like a friend. They landed in the very canyon where it all began, where Evan first met Kara under those twin moons. The ground was cracked and familiar, but everything felt different. The air carried a strange pulse. The rocks glowed faintly blue. And then, a deep rumbling sound echoed in the distance. Not a storm, but something alive. Kara lifted her head and let out a mighty roar that shook the canyons. And then faintly, Another roar answered. Evan froze. "You heard that, didn't you?" he whispered. The sound came again, louder. From behind a ridge, shapes appeared, smaller than Kara, but unmistakably of her kind. 1, 2, 3 more Voraths stepped into view, their eyes glowing with that same blue fire. Evan's heart pounded. "You're not the last one," he whispered, a wave of emotion washing over him. Kara made a soft, trembling sound, a mix of disbelief and pure joy. She moved forward slowly, cautiously, her eyes fixed on the newcomers. They hesitated, then lowered their heads in a sign of peace. Commander Zareth's voice crackled over the comm. "Captain, what's happening?" Evan smiled faintly, a wide, genuine smile. "History, Commander. You're watching history." Over the next few days, the new Vorath stayed near the canyons, calm and intelligent, following Kara's lead. The Valerian scientists, who had come expecting conflict, observed from a distance, stunned. Evan once again became the vital link, translating the unspoken language between beast and alien, showing the Council that coexistence wasn't just a dream, but a beautiful reality. The Crimson Planet, once a symbol of death, transformed into a beacon of unity, with new research domes rising, not for war, but for understanding. And at the heart of it all, Evan and Kara stood together, their bond rewriting galactic history. Years passed. Evan grew older, his hair silvered, but his story, his legend, only grew brighter. Children on countless worlds listened to tales of the human who walked with beasts. In the grand halls of the Valerian Academy, a statue stood tall, a human man with his hand resting on the head of a magnificent beast with glowing eyes. The inscription read, "Evan Carter and Kara, the bridge between species." One quiet night, under those same twin moons, Evan stood once again beside Kara at the canyon's edge. The wind was gentle, carrying memories of storms long past. "You changed everything," he said softly, running a hand along her warm skin. "Not just for me, but for them too." Kara made a low, soft sound, full of emotion. He chuckled. "You know, they used to call me reckless. Maybe they were right, but I'd do it all again." The beast turned her massive head, her eyes glowing faintly, and leaned down, pressing her forehead gently against his chest, just as she had on that very first night in the cave. For a long, profound moment they stayed that way, human and creature, friends until the end. Above them, the stars burned brighter than ever. The galaxy was changing, slowly but surely. Fear was giving way to faith. Division was being replaced by understanding. And somewhere, far across the stars, people still whispered the same story. The one that began with exile, blossomed into friendship, and ended in legend. They sent the human to die, but he returned with the beast as his ally. And together they taught the universe that even in the darkest worlds, light can still be found, if you have the courage to see it. What an incredible journey, right? It makes you wonder what other hidden potentials lie waiting to be discovered, both in ourselves and in the world around us. If this story sparked something in you, hit that like button, share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing tales. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.